Hey Yoad, how you doing?
Hey Nick, how are you? I'm good.
Great. So we were having a chat a couple of weeks ago, and you've been posting some great mix tips and sort of just general studio tips on how to kind of get the best out of mixing in the box and recording and all kinds of other stuff. And we thought it'd be great to do some of this stuff over here, so you can tell us a little bit more about what you do in the studio, because for those who don't know, Yoad is a highly respected, internationally acclaimed mixer and producer and songwriter. So he's got a lot to offer, and if you've been watching his channel over at Yoad Nevo, then you will already know this. But if you haven't, then this is the stuff that will be really useful to you. So today we're going to look a little bit at kind of, it's interesting, isn't it? It's preparing for a mix is something that's often overlooked, because, I mean, many of us just kind of flail around making the arrangement, and then suddenly we're, oh, right, okay, I'm sort of ready to mix now, and then we just continue, and we maybe don't organise it. Whereas I think you're a big believer in making sure that the mix is prepared and ready, and so that, is this so that you don't have to have too much cognitive load on the other stuff? You can focus purely on the main thing?
Yes, I get tracks in the hundreds sometimes, and you don't want to be overwhelmed by anything, and you want to be in control. Control is the key word here. You either are in control of the session, or you are controlled by the sheer number of tracks and audio files and file names and sample rates and things like that. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you get the files the way you want them. One thing I can recommend, when you're producing, when you're arranging, when you're doing your own music, once you're happy with the track and you think it's ready for mix, I would strongly suggest bouncing everything. No MIDI, no instruments, no missing samples or loading or contact or anything like that. Just imagine it's the old days, and you commit to tape, and then you open a new session, a fresh session. The one thing I would have in this session, which you can see here, is some reverbs, some delays, some stuff that you like.
Right, so effects sends effectively.
Yes, so
yeah,
the way
and
I
buzzers.
start my session is I already have 8 effects ready to go. So when I want to send something to a reverb or delay or doubler or something like that, I just do it via an auxiliary, and I don't have to think about it. The second, which is really important, and I can't stress it enough, is to type the BPM before you import any files. This is really important, and it prevents a lot of problems later on when you engage flex audio, time stretch, and things like that. And then you import the files. Right now, this is the kind of raw project, but it clears so much, of your brain when you just have strips. Everything is relaxed. The computer is not doing anything. You can just concentrate on the task at hand, which is mixing.
Yeah.
But most of my work is remote. So this is the instruction that I give to everyone that sends me a mix. Just print everything. If you're not sure whether to print it with effects, with plugins or not, do 2 passes.
I mean, looking at this, what's beautiful about it is there's no, I'm not thinking about the arrangement here because there's no information for it on the screen. So I'm sort of clear, my buffer is cleared. Yeah.
And another thing, this is a very small session, but sometimes I get sessions, I get, like 200 files and things like that. Now, one thing I would say before bouncing is make sure that your files don't start with the project name, the artist, the BPM, and this and that, because then all you'll see here in your DAW
Yes.
is that, and it will just show you the name of the project, which you know already.
Right.
So just keep it simple. Kick in, kick out, whatever. These are not my tracks. This is a mix I received from a producer to mix. We will show all the details. great singer, and I really like this track. That's why I chose to feature it here. If you happen to receive files which have like funny file names, long and stuff, just use I use this program to rename, to batch rename files. So I can delete the first 7 characters or
Yeah.
whatever, and I can manipulate the file name to make sure that I have only what I need. This is, again, peace of mind. The next step
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
be to sort the files by, so drums, same color, my swooshes and effects, atonal stuff. Always this color, bass is always brown. It's, I don't know, earthy or something. And
Begins
then
with B.
maybe, and then synths, guitars, they have their own colors. The producer, well, he's a friend of mine, he's an amazing guitarist, and you can tell because it's all about guitars.
Right.
Main vocal in red, backing vocals in kind of shades of red, or orangey or whatever. And from there we can start even listening to what we have. And it's really important to understand what we have in the session. um, One way of doing it is to take all the faders down and pulling each track and seeing what's on there. Because
Yeah.
again, we don't want to have any surprises. When we mix, we want to be in total control and not to say, oh, where is this coming from? What happened there? And stuff like that. So we want to know. I'm not saying that you have to listen to every track in its
No, but I suppose
entirety.
because sometimes people will group, will maybe when they bounce, they've forgotten that they also included the snare fill from track 7 in the backing vocal gap or
Uh,
whatever.
that rarely happens, but what does happen is stuff where um, I already had a look at these backing vocals, and I think that some of this one was on this track, and so very basic, kind of just making
Yeah.
sure that everything is on its own track, doing what it's supposed to do, and then you can start mixing. So here, obviously, the waveform is zoomed all the way in.
What sort of level? Because I mean, I always used to, when I worked with a particular band, I was used to call them tiptoe recordings because everything was just so quiet, and you'd have to, or did I have to normalize it? Where would I put, So do you bother with that at this stage, or do you just try to keep it all as it was?
It depends. I mean, if this is recorded at decent kind of level, so it's all good. Let's say some of those keys are quiet. So one way of doing that would be, and this works in Logic. I'm not sure about other DAWs. So I'm selecting individual regions, and I'm setting a target LUFS. So it's basically looking at kind of energy level of a track. Maybe I can set it to um, minus 20 or something like that. So remember, this is not peak.
Right.
And now
And
they're beautiful. And
does that make, and they're relative to each other rather than all
no,
individually
they're
being?
in the individual. Each one has a target LUFS regardless of any
Right.
other regions. The next thing will be to loop at the drums. Okay, so at this stage, what I would want to do, and this is the stage to do it. If you want to replace the kick and snare, I can't stress enough how useful is this function. Basically, doing it offline.
So you what that's sense the transients presumably in there, have you?
Yes, but you want to go over, and this is on the kick and the snare. This is worth the time in gold, if I may say something like that.
Right.
I mean, spending the time just listening to each one, making sure that each one,
It's not a
this one
trigger point.
looks suspicious, it's fine. And then once I have that, I can convert this to MIDI. And then this is very easy in Logic, but there are different ways of doing it, but once it's based on the transients, and I can see here, so now I want to kick, so it will trigger C3, C2.
So it'll automatically do, just 36, C36
Yes, and here you can see that this is the trigger that it created. Then that's it. That's my kick. And now I can bring a one I prepared earlier.
So now you're going to re-trigger that with a sort of a more consistent and mix-ready kick drum, right?
Yes, and I might as well bring the snare as well, just so we can hear how it sounds with and without. So it
That's
sounds slightly better.
Snare and a ring. Is that a ringier snare you've added as well?
It's
sort of
a
bit
very ringy snare, which I love. It's a Bogren digital cream drums, which I love. They're kind of designed, or they were made for metal, but I tweak the stuff. It's very tweakable, so I get that. That's how the kick sounds. You can hear it's kind of metal orientated, but I've softened it a lot. And this is the kick in. This is the kick out. Together, I don't have any process on them, by the way. No gates or anything like that, because so I don't mind that spill, because it gives me some kind of realness to the whole thing. And then I split the snare trigger to verse and chorus. So this is the verse, which is quieter. It has a little bit more reverb.
Slightly less open, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So rather than doing again another tip, or that's the way I work, rather than automating stuff, I just split it. If I have verse, chorus, whatever, I just split it to different parts, and then I can manually set it.
You don't get taxed on the number of door tracks you use, do you?
Exactly.
It's fine.
Exactly.
You use as many as you need. So in terms of live kits, would you often replace the kick and the snare, or is it only if it's just not up to snuff?
So I don't consider this replacing, because I still have this, I still have the bottom snare. So there's a lot of spill. If you just listen to the kick and snare, so I want that, and I have the hi-hat, and I have obviously the overheads, which are, that's the whole thing, and the room. It's a really small room. There's something kind of cool about that. And then I add the triggers, and it makes the whole thing. I have another one here, which is just kind of a snappy one within the choruses. So it's not really replacement. It's
enhancement,
enhancement. And I use those triggers to the samples to send them to the effect rather than the original, because then I will get like all the spill and stuff into the reverb. So that's a clean. Also, it's longer because I don't have to gate it. So that's the kind of stuff. Now the next thing to do is to look at the toms. So what I want to do, and so here I can either go one by one and cut them, but I can try to do it like that, with the strip silence thing, and then go and tweak it. Again, don't save time on that.
Gosh, this is taking me back. I mean, because I used to do a lot of live sound, and I do the live sound for kits, a lot. But when it comes to mixing live kits, I think a lot of people just have absolutely no idea how to deal with them. It's because it's quite a specialist thing to be able to get it to sound really good and punchy and like a record, right?
Yes, yes. I used to do a lot of live sounds with bands, with drums and stuff. It's a slightly different approach, but here we're offline. We can do whatever we want, and we can make sure that everything is spoken for, basically. So it doesn't sound like much on its own, but together I don't need all that extra information. Because you get some of it from the overheads, you get some of it from the room, and the cymbals are clean.
Oh yeah. It's just, yeah, it's alive, isn't it? It's interesting that adding a sample makes it sound more alive, which is kind of maybe counterintuitive.
Absolutely. This is, a good producer who knows what he's doing. So there's no noises and stuff like that. It's all very clean. I don't really have to cut it, but I'm just used to doing it. So it also makes it easier on the eye. So I would basically go and do that to every track, making sure I'm not missing out. You see here, this is the fade, and this is where there's nothing.
So you would cut up all of these into their consistent sort of parts, trim out all the dead space and whatnot.
Yeah. You can do it very quickly because now, let's say I'm doing something like that, and I can just go boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
and then your session suddenly looks even better. So basically, the way I treat my regions is like I was going to make a sample library, and each region is going to be released as part of a sample library. So it has to be perfect. No
Clean, yeah.
noise, no clicks, no kind of chopped fades or anything like that. So I would do something like that. With the vocals, you have to be more careful. So I'll treat that separately. And now, just to make sure that I haven't missed anything, this is how I want things to be. Maybe I will add
Yeah.
some fades to the whole thing a little bit. I know that I can do it because I left kind of post silence
Yeah, you left it.
sort
Yeah.
of margin. So I can do that. As you can see here, I have a lead vocal track, which shows me as stereo. However, I go through each one and I make sure that if it's mono signal, I set the track to mono. And here you can
Yeah.
see that both sides are exactly identical to the sample, so I can safely set this track to mono. Another thing I can do, and I think that would be our last sort of mix prep tip, would be to do something similar to normalizing the loudness of tracks. But here, what I can do is I can compare between the verse and the choruses. Or if I see some blobs that kind of belong together, I very roughly do something like that. And
Yeah.
then I can normalize it to, yeah, -20 is fine. So now it's much happier because this is pre any plugin. So now the compressor will look at it in a more kind of equalized way, more
Yeah.
evenly, and everything will be very happy, and you're not going to get anything too quiet or too loud. So you can really dial in your overdrive or harmonic distortion or whatever in a controlled way because it's not going to suddenly. And I can do here, you can see that this will be very beneficial if I would do something like that quickly and to the BVs. And here, because this is very loud, suddenly I would actually cut it here. Again, I know it's cheating. This is what I do for a living.
I suppose in a way, I mean, one might argue if I'd been the band that recorded this and we did it live and it was a dynamic, there was a certain amount of dynamics to it. I mean, would you treat it differently knowing that, or would you still prefer to put that in yourself?
Of course. We're talking about a pop track here, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
So we want to make it as polished as possible. The fact that it's an indie track has nothing to do with it. I'm not going to make it sound any less polished or not the best way it can sound because of the style of music. If it was a jazz or classical track or something like that, then I would treat it very differently.
A different approach. Yeah.
But then the processors I would use would be different and the whole thing. So now if I undo all that, and you can see.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
how much nicer it is to work with something like that. So these things are definitely worth the time because now this is how I want stuff to look. Now I can mix.
Right. I see what you're saying. So everything's a lot more sort of regimented and ready to be then processed in individual ways and dealt with. Right. Okay. I see that.
And we can have a listen to the track.
Time will go. Is it better if we'll do it fast or slow? Oh dear, I know it's gonna hurt no matter what we choose. My steps got smaller every round, but I love you so I'll bite my lips for now. Oh dear, there's nothing you can do to fix a broken past. Do you need another second, darling? Been lying here for quite some time. No, there is no other way but to say goodbye. No, there is no other way but to say goodbye. Can't keep shouting empty screams.
Just one question. If this was a sort of an off-grid track where there was quite a lot of tempo variance, would it make your approach any different?
Not in this case, because again, I'm not editing, I'm not doing anything. I'm just replacing or augmenting or adding to the drums as they are played. I haven't checked, I don't know if the drums are quantized or not. I haven't checked, it sounds good. It has a nice feel and you know, I'm not doing anything that would require me to use the grid.
Hey Yoad, thanks ever so much for showing us that. It's really insightful.
Well, I enjoyed it. There'll be more mix tips, or I don't know what to call it, but it's just the way I work from years of experience and mixing thousands and thousands of songs, and I'm happy to share it with everyone.
Yeah, so if you want to see more stuff like this, some really good stuff there already, and an ever-growing sort of library of this kind of information, head over to Yoad's YouTube channel. Okay, so that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.
Now the star in your sky.